Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me here for the Taz Effect. For those that normally join us on TikTok, my apologies. We are still on timeout over there, but we can have a nice rocking good time over here as well, and you get more of a immersive experience over here on the tube of you, Facebook, and Substack with the rest of us. um. And as always, for those listening in on the GCPR.live airwaves, thank you, thank you, thank you, and welcome. Now, I would like to say that, today we had a little, you know, good sense. Last night we had some good sense from the commander in chief, but that would be a bold-faced lie. That would not be the truth. Because everything about the current sitting POTUS is abnormal and unnecessary, unwarranted, and completely allergic to facts or truth. But according to some of y'all, that's what you like. That's how you like things. I guess. I'm guessing. I'm going out on a limb here. But Trump decided to have a speech last night, and during that speech, according to PBS.org, Trump promises warrior dividend of $1,776 for U.S. military service members. Pretty sure 1776 is just the only year he really knows. But since he was sworn in, he has been dipping and dabbling into the 17 and 1800s for virtually everything. He just, that's where he likes to be. But we know he thinks that if it's an antique, it's great. It's wunderbar. It's wonderful. I guess. If he likes it, somebody loves it somewhere out there. Deep blue sea. I don't know. Somebody's got to like it. President Donald Trump said some 1.45 million U.S. military service members will receive a warrior dividend of $1,776 before Christmas. I'm just waiting for Scott Bessent to take to the airwaves like he generally does and contradicts what Trump is promising. Because I'm pretty sure it's just going to be in discounts otherwise. Like they said before, it'll be in deductions for your taxes. The president announced the checks during his address to the nation Wednesday, suggesting the money was made possible by tariffs. They weren't. It's not clear how exactly the checks are being funded. For all of these things that he's promising are going to be paid out of the tariffs, he doesn't realize how much tariff money he has collected from the residents and citizens of the United States. Like he truly doesn't. Like he doesn't. Like in his mind, he's doing a great thing because he does not understand. But in honor of our nation's founding in 1776, we're sending every soldier $1,776, Trump said. From where? From where? From where? Where's this? Where's this going to come from? Trump's primetime speech was an opportunity for the president to praise his administration as Americans grow more concerned about prices and affordability. The affordability that he's now claiming and proclaiming to be a Democrat hoax and saying that it's unattainable. The latest PBS News slash NPR slash Bears poll released Wednesday found a record low number of Americans approve of how he is handling the economy. Throughout his speech, Trump blamed his predecessor, former President Joe Biden, and Democratic policies for the country's problems seen this year. What? Hmm? Care to explain? Because what? Hmm? How is it still the Democrats' fault when the Democrats are not in power and not in control of anything? And how is it still Joe Biden's fault? Hmm? Hmm? How do it? How did we get here? But it's the Democrats that like to avoid accountability, huh? Okay. Just a checking. Just checking. Just a checking. Now, coming from Reuters, new White House plaques attack Trump's Democratic predecessors and Bush. Because that's what we need the leader of the free world focusing his time on. The White House has installed new plaques beneath photos of former leaders on President Donald Trump's quote unquote presidential walk of fame at the White House that sharply criticized his Democratic predecessors. In any other career field, this level of avoiding doing what is ascribed to the scope of your position would have had you fired a long time ago. But given that we have turned politics in the United States a volleying of talking points and essentially the longest standing telenovela slash reality TV show bunch of BS, here we are. Here we are. We got Bad Girls Club White House edition. The plaques are a striking addition because both Republicans and Democrats have traditionally viewed the historic building as a symbol of national unity. Trump, however, has not shied from using the White House as a stage for his more combative style of politics and for rewriting history. Just say that he's using the White House to lie. See how simple that was? To lie. The plaque beneath President Joe Biden's photo reads, and it's not even Joe Biden, it's a picture of an auto pen. Sleepy Joe was by far the worst president in American history. It falsely accuses him of winning the most corrupt election ever and claims he made unprecedented use of the auto pen. Coming from the head of a faction of the current GOP, whose people rely heavily on ChatGPT and Grok AI. Because I cannot tell you how many conversations, how many back and forths I have seen and I have been involved in where people go, well, this is what ChatGPT told me. This is what Grok AI told me. Biden, whom Trump succeeded this year, is the only president not to have a portrait and is instead represented by a photo of an auto pen, a mechanical device that replicates a signature with a pen or other writing implement. Another plaque refers to Barack Hussein Obama, the first Black U.S. president, and describes the two-term president as one of the most divisive political figures in American history. For being Black. For being Black and not, cowering to Eurocentric standards and whims, and for causing the country to look at itself in a mirror. Granted, it was a funhouse mirror with questionable electricity, but mirror nonetheless. Really quickly, we're going to update you regarding Luigi Mangione. I need you to listen. There's going to be two videos back to back. Let's pay attention to the audio and we'll discuss it on the other side.
Her name. As a matter of fact, let's look at the legal filings. Luigi's attorney said that the prosecution is going to argue the police had every legal right to search the book bag without a warrant because they were dealing with an emergency. The officers are essentially going to argue that what if Luigi suddenly grabbed that bag, pulled out a weapon, and hurt somebody? In their view, they had to search that book bag without a search warrant to remove any possible threat. But what if Luigi actually couldn't reach the bag, like at all? Maybe I'm not looking at this photo correctly, but if Luigi is over here and the bag is over here, how is he supposed to extend his arm, get past multiple officers, and access that weapon? Saul Goodman would never let you make an argument like that. Luigi's lawyers say that he was handcuffed and surrounded by officers, which means the officers, per their training, removed any real possibility of him grabbing that bag. That's exactly right. That's what you should do if you want to protect yourself and other random civilians nearby from getting hurt. The issue is that you cannot restrain someone to the point where they cannot reach the bag and then later claim you searched the bag because they might have been able to reach it. Which is it? Now, do I think from a purely legal and clinical standpoint the evidence should be allowed? No, I don't. But do I think a judge is going to locate?
Good morning, everyone. First of all, we want to thank everyone for coming and for sitting through a 3-week mini trial that should have been a half a day. Knapp hearings and Huntley hearings to suppress statements and evidence usually take a half a day, maybe a day. We were told this was going to be several days, but this went on for 3 weeks unnecessarily, and lots of witnesses were called. And in fact, today we were fully expecting the case detective, Detective Diaz, to testify. And it was only after Lieutenant Leonardi testified about the illegal wiretap of Mr. Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that they withdrew statement notice, and now suddenly we're not going to have the lead case detective in this case. It's significant. There was a lot of open questions that we wanted to question him about, especially the very prejudicial statement made by the chief of detectives at the time there was a press conference a year ago where they were talking about all the probable cause and the reasons they had to believe that Mr. Mangione committed this crime. And one of those things was that they relied on a statement made by his mother that she said she could see him doing something like this. That's an absolutely false statement. That was never said. And in fact, we asked for discovery regarding that. The prosecution told us they gave us all the discovery. We've even subpoenaed materials from San Francisco Police Department. There is no such statement. It was never. Good morning, everyone. First of all, we want to thank everyone for coming and for sitting through a 3-week mini trial that should have been a half a day. Knapp hearings and Huntley hearings to suppress statements and evidence usually take a half a day, maybe a day. We were told this was going to be several days, but this went on for 3 weeks unnecessarily, and lots of witnesses were called. And in fact, today we were fully expecting the case detective, Detective Diaz, to testify. And it was only after Lieutenant Leonardi testified about the illegal wiretap of Mr. Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, that they withdrew statement notice, and now suddenly we're not going to have the lead case detective in this case. It's significant. There was a lot of open questions that we wanted to question him about, especially the very prejudicial statement made by the chief of detectives at the time there was a press conference a year ago where they were talking about all the probable cause and the reasons they had to believe that Mr. Mangione committed this crime. And one of those things was that they relied on a statement made by his mother that she said she could see him doing something like this. That's an absolutely false statement. That was never said. And in fact, we asked for discovery regarding that. The prosecution told us they gave us all the discovery. We've even subpoenaed materials from San Francisco Police Department. There is no such statement. It was never made. In fact, it was the opposite. What Mrs. Mangione said was that she could never see her son being a risk to himself or others. And we put that on the record again today, and that still has not been corrected by either the NYPD or the Manhattan DA's office. That's a prejudicial statement that has been repeated many, many times. And yes, I'm repeating it here, but because you all have published this over and over and over again, because this was an essential piece of information that Detective Kenny said was relied upon by the NYPD in this case. So we want the NYPD or the San Francisco PD or the Manhattan DA to correct this very prejudicial statement that was never said. So thank you very much for coming.
Why did this Mrs. Mangione about that?
So thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate it all, and we'll see you again soon.
Why did this pretrial last so long?
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everybody.
And we hope,
Hi, everyone.
we hope Christmas music wasn't ruined for everyone forever.
For the rest of time.
For the
Or
rest of
McDonald's.
time. So.
You'll be home for Christmas. Yeah.
Ah.
Bye, everybody.
Well, what was that again about? If you're ever in trouble, call the police. Have you forgotten that their whole protect and serve is nothing more than a tagline? They are the epitome of overzealous. They want that 3 seconds of a perp walk, that 3 seconds of a pat on the back, not actual results. And for those of you all that were out calling for people to be removed from, their scholarship placements, to be removed from their places of employment, why aren't you on the FBI's neck? Well, for a throwback to when the DOJ actually had a monochrome of integrity, coming from NPR.org, Jack Smith defends his prosecutions of Trump in closed-door session in Congress. Former Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith defended his investigations of President Trump, telling congressional lawmakers Wednesday that he made prosecutorial decisions without regard to Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 presidential election, according to portions of his opening statement obtained by NPR. Testifying behind closed doors, Smith also told the House Judiciary Committee that his team developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump took part in a criminal scheme to overturn the 2020 election. Investigators also had powerful evidence that Trump had willfully retained classified documents and tried to obstruct justice to hide that he had them. I don't think that was a shocker to anybody. Like, I truly don't. I don't think that was a shocker to anybody. Whoops. The decision to bring charges against President Trump was mine, but the basis for those charges rests entirely with President Trump and his actions, Smith told lawmakers. Smith appeared in private before the Republican-led committee in response to a subpoena after the panel rejected his offer to testify publicly about his investigation. The probes led to 2 criminal indictments against Trump, one for allegedly trying to overturn the 2020 election and the other for allegedly obstructing justice and mishandling classified documents. After Trump's 2024 election win, the Justice Department dropped the election case and abandoned its appeal effort of a federal judge's dismissal of the classified documents prosecution. Trump and his allies, including GOP lawmakers on the panel, have long accused Smith of investigating Trump for political reasons, a claim Smith denied. He also stood by his decision to pursue the cases. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether the president was Republican or Democrat, he said. And let me take the time to remind people yet again, the decision not to indict, prosecute, sentence, and incarcerate a sitting U.S. president is tradition. It is not law. It is not contained within the parameters of the Constitution. Okay? And other countries have been able to keep impeccable checks and balances because they're not afraid to throw the cuffs on an elected leader. They have no problem reminding leaders who they actually work for. While we're cowering and we're acting like we're afraid of our employees. The same people who get online every single day in and day out, talking about it's a shame that these new age parents are afraid of their children. It's a shame that you keep handing over your power. You keep saying your vote doesn't count while you're actively watching people try to gerrymander you out of your vote. You're out here allowing yourself to be taxed while you're not represented. Mm. Okay. 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 You like it. Somebody loves it. Not me, but somebody is sure to love it. Now, this is actually coming from Fox News Online. Speaker Mike Johnson ekes out healthcare bill victory after House GOP Obamacare rebellion. A Republican lawmaker told Fox News Digital the bill could reduce costs by 11%. House Republicans passed a bill they say will lower healthcare costs for a broad swath of Americans by roughly 11%. It's a victory for Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican out of Louisiana, who has been managing deep divisions within the House GOP on the topic of healthcare, as insurance premiums are set to spike across the country in a matter of weeks. One glaring issue that remains unresolved is Obamacare subsidies, enhanced during the COVID-19 pandemic, but are set to expire at the end of the year. The legislation passed 216 to 211. Just one Republican, Representative Thomas Massie out of Kentucky, voted against it along with all House Democrats. The bill's passage comes hours after a group of moderate Republicans joined a Democrat-led discharge petition to force a vote on extending the subsidies for another 3 years. A discharge petition is a mechanism for overriding the will of House leaders to get a chamber-wide vote on specific legislation, provided it has support from a majority of lawmakers. It sets up the legislation for a vote sometime in the new year. Each of the four House Republicans made clear that backing Democrats' bill was not their first choice, but they felt they were left with few options after Johnson made clear this week that there would not be a separate vote on extending the subsidies before the end of this year. But the majority of House Republicans are against extending the subsidies, at least without significant reforms. Conservatives have argued the subsidies amount to throwing more money at a long broken system that does little to tackle the actual cost of health care. Obamacare has been an unmitigated disaster for 15 years, crushing families with high premiums and rampant fraud while enriching insurance companies. It's time for conservatives to get serious about advancing policies that can become law and therefore actually reduce costs. Republican Study Committee Chairman August Pfluger, Republican out of Texas, who called the House bill a solid first step, said Fox News Digital. Republicans who are for extending them have also conceded that reforms are needed, but have positioned a short-term extension as the best course of action to buy more time to work on an off-ramp. The House GOP bill, the Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act, includes provisions to codify association health plans, which allows small businesses and people who are self-employed to band together to purchase healthcare coverage plans, giving them access to greater bargaining power. Republicans also plan to appropriate funding for cost sharing reductions beginning in 2027, which are designed to lower out of pocket medical costs in the individual healthcare market. House GOP leadership aides said it would bring down the cost of premiums by 12%. New transparency requirements for pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs, are also in the legislation aimed at forcing PBMs to be more upfront about costs to employers. PBMs are third parties that act as intermediaries between pharmaceutical companies and those responsible for insurance coverage, often responsible for administrative tasks and negotiating drug pricings. PBMs have also been the subject of bipartisan ire in Congress, with both Republicans and Democrats accusing them of being part of a broken system to inflate healthcare costs. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, estimated that enacting the bill would reduce the federal deficit by $35.6 billion for a 10-year period through 2035. If the bill became law, it would also decrease the number of people with health insurance by an average of 100,000 per year between 2027 and 2035, and lower gross benchmark premium costs by the average 11% through 2035, CBO said. However, it's not immediately clear whether it will be taken up by the Senate. Republicans in the upper chamber failed to advance their own healthcare plan last week after also rejecting Democrats' plan to extend Obamacare subsidies. Well, we know they want it for them and no one else. Also, I want to give a gentle reminder that this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central on the Villains View, we will have four advocates for Carmelo Anthony, the 17-year-old individual who is being charged in the death of Austin Metcalf. If you feel inclined, can donate to Mr. Anthony's Give, Send, Go to offset the cost of his legal team. That is in the bio of all of my socials. It's at the very top. And those listening, you can find any of that on YouTube at TazJ77, and feel free. Once again, like I said, should you feel inclined to donate. And this came right before we began today's show. Trump signs executive order that could reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. This would be impressive if it wasn't an executive order. And see, this is the thing. Many people don't understand that executive orders are not legislation. So they think that Trump is doing all these great things. But every time he signs an executive order, there is no plan of action to get this codified into law. There's no plan of action to even let's just get into it. President Donald Trump signed an executive order Thursday that would reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug and open new avenues for medical research, a major shift in federal drug policy that inches closer to what many states have done. The switch would move marijuana away from its current classification as a Schedule I drug alongside heroin and LSD. Cannabis would instead be a Schedule III substance like ketamine and some anabolic steroids. Okay, well, looks like we lost the people on Facebook, but we'll continue to press on. Such a switch typically requires an arduous process, including a public comment period that has drawn tens of thousands of reactions from across the U.S. The DEA was still in the review process when Trump took office in January. Trump's official order is expected to speed the process along, though it was not immediately clear how long it might take. My thing is he doing this so that people won't look down on ketamine so much? Because, you know, his on again, off again bromance boudoir buddy, Elon word on the curb is that he likes a little ketamine. And this was concurred, very tongue-in-cheek like, by Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. We discussed that yesterday. If you want to take a look on the YouTube channel at TazJ77 to review the Vanity Fair interview breakdown with Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Polling from Gallup shows more Americans back a less restrictive approach. Support for marijuana legislation is growing significantly from just 36% in support in 2005 to 68% in the last year. And here's the thing. Hemp would do wonders for U.S. economy, creating employment opportunities, and so much more. But I also wonder, is this a move, to maybe help out some people within Trump's family that, word on the curb is that they're, battling some addictions. Who knows? Who knows? Coming from CBS, judge blocks ICE from requiring members of Congress to provide prior notice before detention center visits. It's about time, because it kind of defeats the purpose of checks and balances if you're giving somebody a heads up. A federal judge on Wednesday temporarily blocked a Trump administration policy that sought to require members of Congress to submit requests a week before visiting and inspecting Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention facilities. U.S. District Court Judge Gia Cobb ruled the policy likely violated an appropriations law passed by Congress, saying that the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, cannot use funds to require lawmakers in Congress to provide prior notice of the intent to enter a facility to conduct oversight. That DHS policy, announced in June, said members of Congress should file requests to inspect ICE facilities a minimum of 7 days before making the visit, and that only Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem could waive that requirement. Before that policy, ICE had historically allowed members of Congress to visit ICE facilities without prior notice. Contrary to defendants' suggestions, then, appropriations law does not entitle members of Congress to access ICE facilities without being subject to a notice requirement, Cobb wrote in her ruling Wednesday. The DC-based judge's orders stem from a lawsuit filed by the groups Democracy Forward Foundation and American Oversight on behalf of a dozen Democratic lawmakers in Congress who attempted to inspect ICE detention centers. In a statement, New York Rep. Dan Goldman, a Democrat and one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, said Wednesday's order vindicated lawmakers' statutory right to conduct oversight. For months, masked, unidentified ICE agents have detained law-abiding immigrants in inhumane and unconstitutional conditions, while DHS has repeatedly and unlawfully blocked me and other members of Congress from inspecting these facilities, Goldman said. The Trump administration has argued ICE detention site visits by members of Congress should not interfere with President Trump's constitutional powers. It has also accused Democratic lawmakers of going to ICE facilities for political purposes. It's for the purpose of doing their job. Checks and balances exist. We're not in an aristocracy. We're not in a dictatorship, at least not yet. DHS said in a Thursday statement, in fiscal year 2025, we supported more facility visits than any other year under the Biden-Harris administration. Well, Biden and Harris weren't abducting people off the street and underfeeding them, losing their children, or accidentally on purpose killing them. These requests must be part of a legitimate congressional oversight activities, and far too often they are just for Media Act. We don't even know how often they're going to see them. The only time it's been for a Media Act is when the Republicans have made a big deal about it, when they brought it to the media. Let's be real. Let's look at the narrative that's actually occurring and not the narrative that's being pushed. Okay? Let's be 100% honest here. Oh, what is going on today with everything? And the whole point of an oversight committee is to go and verify that things are working properly. Do you think a health inspector is going to sit down and schedule with you a visit? No, that's not how that works, darling. No matter how much you want it to be that way. Coming from Reuters, U.S. judge will block hundreds of Trump administration layoffs, citing shutdown law. A federal judge on Wednesday said she would block President Donald Trump's administration from laying off hundreds of federal employees, the latest legal setback for Trump's efforts to downsize the U.S. government workforce. And why would we want to do that? I don't know. U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston, during a hearing in San Francisco, said hundreds of layoffs at 4 agencies were likely not allowed under a law Congress passed last month to end a 43-day government shutdown. The chaotic nature of these layoffs has been continuing and has affected employees of the government in many ways, including loss of potential alternative jobs and loss of health care coverage, Ilston said. Which is absolutely 100% accurate. All righty. Circling back to Jack Smith. This coming in from CNN. Jack Smith didn't invoke Fifth Amendment during 8 hours of testimony, GOP committee chairman says. Former special counsel Jack Smith did not invoke his Fifth Amendment rights during 8 hours of testimony Wednesday behind closed doors to the House Judiciary Committee, the panel's chairman said. He did not take the fifth like some of his deputies did, Jim Jordan, an Ohio Republican, said on Fox News on Thursday. Smith defended both of his investigations into then former President Donald Trump, telling members that he charged Trump regardless of his political party affiliation. Smith and his attorneys have previously said that he wanted the opportunity to correct mischaracterizations about his investigations. Previous interviewees have invoked their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, Jordan said on Fox. You know, we've deposed 3 of his deputies, he said. We've got more coming in, and one of them took the fifth 70 times. We've actually referred that individual because we think he was obstructing our investigation. Let us see the transcripts to verify this. Because these are closed doors hearings. And I believe Jim Jordan about as much as I believe Trump. Not at all. Kennedy Center Board votes to rename it Trump Kennedy Center. It was already, you mean the Trump board, because he appointed everybody and then kept floating about the name Trump Kennedy Center. And I would think he would want his name last, but whatever. The Board of Trustees of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts voted Thursday to rename the facility after both the former president and President Donald Trump. The Kennedy Center Board of Trustees voted unanimously today to name the institution the Donald J. Trump and the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center for the Performing Arts, Center spokesperson Roma Daravi said in a statement. Here's something. Here's an idea. Just spitballing here. If Trump wants something named after himself, why doesn't he just break ground on it? Why doesn't he make his presidential library a library and not a website? The unanimous vote recognizes that the current chairman saved the institution from financial ruin and physical destruction. The new Trump Kennedy Center reflects the unequivocal bipartisan support for America's cultural center for generations to come, she added. That is boo stickety. The vote took place during a board meeting, according to a source familiar with the matter, during which Trump called in. The president, who was elected chair by a newly constituted board in February, has frequently joked about calling the Performing Arts Center the Trump Kennedy Center, and it appears his handpicked board has approved his wishes. At the Oval Office event Thursday afternoon, the president said he was honored and surprised by the decision. I was honored by this. The board is a very distinguished board, most distinguished people in the country, and I was surprised by it. Okay, sure, Trump. Trump said this was brought up by one of the very distinguished board members, and they voted on it. And there's a lot of board members, and they voted unanimously. Mm-hmm. Democratic Representative Joyce Beatty, an ex officio member of the board, said the vote was not unanimous. I was on that call, and as I tried to push my button to voice my concern, to ask questions, and certainly not to vote in support of this, I was muted. Each time I tried to speak, I was muted, she said in a video posted to X. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt congratulated the president in a post on social media, writing, "The building will no doubt attain new levels of success and grandeur." No, it's not. Who y'all gonna get to perform there? Y'all kids? Is this going to be the new place of the children of the White House administration's auditorium? Because what? Questions remain around the legality of the board's move. Congress renamed the Arts Center after former President John F. Kennedy, and legislation passed after his 1963 assassination, and federal law requires that the board assure that after December 2nd, 1983, no additional memorials or plaques in the nature of memorials shall be designated or installed in the public areas of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. The push marks the latest effort to leave Trump's mark on the Kennedy Center. Days after returning to office, Trump announced an aggressive plan to gut the existing board of trustees and oust its chairman, the billionaire philanthropist David Rubenstein. Since then, he's led an effort to reshape the institution into his taste, reshaping its leadership, securing multi-million-dollar congressional funding for renovations, and reimagining its programming. Does Congress know that they gave multi-million dollars for renovations? And what is his thing with redecorating? Did he secretly just want to be an interior designer and nobody would hire him for that? Because, like, what? He installed a who's who of loyalists, including new President Richard Grenell, his ambassador to Germany during his first term, who's been reevaluating programming and targeting it for the masses. What masses? The masses of color redacted individuals? Grenell has cut the existing staff, hired political allies, and mandated a break-even policy for every performance and facility rental. This, I will say, this can't be real, but it is. Oh, child. Trump has also touted restoration of the exterior marble, the interior chairs, and fully renovated stages, which he says will be complete within a year. And by 2026, I am going to naturally, organically grow a unicorn horn right out the center of my head. hmm The changes extend to what's on stage two, as the president has sought to enact a vision for a golden age in arts and culture, saying that the Trump Kennedy Center is not going to be woke. The fact that you're combining the names of two grown ass men is already a little woke, okay? And you want a golden age of arts and culture, but you don't want you want comatose instead of what? Like, do you understand what goes? No, you don't. because Trump's favorite opera is Phantom of the Opera. I want you to let that sink in. I want you to think about the message and Phantom of the Opera and the fact that it is Trump's favorite. Trump's impact on the institution was evident earlier this month at the 2025 Kennedy Center Honors. The president has said he was 98% involved in picking the awardees, who range from Sylvester Stallone to the rock band Kiss and Gloria Gaynor, among others. Those that his boots and probably his Boochie Cat, I don't know. And he also honored the OG Phantom from Phantom of the Opera. And please explain to me why we are okay with having a commander in chief, a president of the United States, that touts being so involved in the selection process of everything but peace, lowering prices, affordability, ending tariffs, and not being a douche canoodle. Yeah, they will be walking around DC in powdered wigs. You got that right. Nightbird. Dear goodness, why? Why has this timeline besieged us the way that it has? Coming from USA Today, RFK Jr. moves to restrict gender-affirming care for minors. How about this? How about this? If we're going to restrict gender-affirming care, take the PP pills off the market. It's not God's will for you to get pleasure or procreate. And y'all, Christian nationalists, y'all keep saying that, coitus is not for enjoyment between a husband and wife. You save that for your boyfriend that's on the side or your mistress. So if Jesus said your PP is not supposed to work, it's just not supposed to work. It's just ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Holding a funeral for your undercarriage now is a must. Okay, email me for a breakdown of cost. I will gladly handle the PP funeral arrangements for you. Okay. The Trump administration is moving to make it harder. I don't think we should make it harder. Let it stay limp. But I digress. For hospitals to provide gender-affirming care for children, to stop medical device manufacturers from marketing breast bonders to children, and to stop gender dysphoria from being protected under federal disability law. I don't think they realize that there are children that need certain medications and things because of other things going on. Like sometimes that gender-affirming care is to affirm the gender that they were assigned at birth that they do align with. So then what? What about the young boys who identify as young boys that end up with moves that don't want that? Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a press conference on Thursday, December 18th, signed a declaration that says, and I quote, "Sex-rejecting procedures are neither safe nor effective treatment for children with gender dysphoria." Well, I thought we wanted them to hold off on sex, like rejecting sex while underage. I thought that's what we wanted in this age of purity culture. I know, I'm being facetious. But nobody's rejecting gender, like accepting the gender that you align with, that you feel is natural to you, is not really rejecting any other gender. What do y'all keep telling us about preferences? And yes, I know gender is not a preference, but go with me here, okay? You're going to say that everything else is a preference and to get out your business and da 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 da. Okay? Here's the thing. For the most part, yes, there are outliers to everything. We're not talking about the outliers right now. Trans women are out here bashing cisgendered women. It's the cisgendered women that are doing that. And trans men, y'all don't seem to give a damn about. Y'all don't give a hooty hoot about the trans men. But you're always trying to figure out who's a trans woman. Kennedy said that the Department of Health and Human Services is starting an administrative process to prohibit hospitals that provide children with sex-rejecting procedures from participating in Medicare and Medicaid, a move that would affect virtually every hospital in the United States. Sweetheart, sweetheart, sweetheart. We have pandemics happening. Simultaneous pandemics right now because of you and your disinformation regarding vaccinations and your dismantling of vaccine boards. And you just want to keep moving along to different things and not talking to the professionals that are there. You that blamed brainworm for you not being able to keep it in your pants. Why is there a floating head behind me?
Hey, it's studio audience time. Studio audience gotta leave though. Studio audience love you.
Love you. Nightbird said, "Hey, chaos."
Hey, Nightbird.
Yeah. And let us not forget the most important piece to the RFK Jr. story that for some reason gets overlooked. So I don't want people to overlook it. I don't want people to ignore it. RFK Jr. is the reason why his first wife, well, his previous wife, committed suicide. He drove her to commit suicide. He harassed that woman and litigated her to the point where she gave up. As the old black folks would say, till she gave up the ghost. He painted her as insane to family, friends, legal professionals. He cheated on her. He disrespected her. He emotionally, financially, mentally abused her. And before you start having a bleeding heart for the current wife, she was around during that time. She listened to the phone calls, her admission, unprovoked. She knew what was going on. I want y'all to keep in mind the type of men that have assembled for this administration. Closing out our time together, Dan Bongino replies to Kash Patel's praise following departure announcement, honor of a lifetime. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino, who announced on Wednesday that he will be departing from his role in January, later replied to FBI Director Kash Patel, who gave him a glowing review. And I quote, "Dan is the best partner I could have asked for in helping restore this FBI. He brought critical reforms to make the organization more efficient, led the successful summer heat op, served as the people's voice for transparency, and delivered major breakthroughs in long unsolved cases like the pipe bomb investigation. And that's only a small part of the work he went about every single day delivering for America," Patel said in a post on X. Where's the restoration of the FBI? Because we haven't trusted the FBI since the FBI became the FBI, okay? Due to J. Edgar Hoover and his shenanigans, okay? Where was the increase of efficiency? Because I have yet to see any cases be closed. Um, what was the successful summer heat op? When did we receive transparency from the FBI? What major breakthroughs? And the pipe bomb investigation is not complete. He not only completed his mission, he far exceeded it. We will miss him, but I'm thankful he accepted the call to serve. Our country is better and safer for it, Patel added. Bongino, are you going back to the podcast world? Are you realizing that that's a better fit for you? Bongino replied, thanking Patel. Thank you, my friend. It's been an honor of a lifetime to serve beside you, he wrote. Bongino, a former Secret Service agent who stepped aside from his work hosting a popular show as a conservative commentator to join the FBI, will depart the federal law enforcement agency less than a year after his swearing-in ceremony, which occurred in March 2025. Prior to Bongino's announcement on Wednesday, President Donald Trump said Dan did a great job, noting that he thinks Bongino wants to return to his show. Attorney General Pam Bondi shared Bongino's announcement post, commenting, Americans are safer because of FBI DD Bongino's service. Thank you, Dan. If that's the case, why is he leaving? Now, for months, been reporting on the Scuttlebutt that Bongino and Patel have been vigorously arguing with Pam Bondi regarding, most notably, the Epstein/Maxwell files and other cases that have been going on. And I'm wondering if this whole pipe bomb thing is the final nail in the coffin. And Bongino is like, you know what? I know I came up with some crazy conspiracy theories regarding the FBI and regarding all these administrations, but what's really going on behind the scenes is far crazier than what I could have come up with in my mind. I'm wondering if that's the case. I'm really, really wondering. I really, truly, truly am wondering. But also, for those that may be familiar, may not be familiar, Riziki Elinre, my apologies if I pronounce her last name incorrectly, took her own life by hanging on a TikTok live after being viciously bullied for quite a few months. There is word going around that the family is looking into charges. It has been confirmed by TMZ and other media outlets that there is an official police investigation into her death. There are also reports that a letter was left behind by Riziki. Footage has surfaced of a gentleman going by Brader and HB Heartbreaker attempting to extort. And I'm saying attempting because I don't know if this money was paid or not, but money from Riziki. They're also, they wanted $25,000 and we're even like, oh, you can pay it over the course of 6 months. It's being said that they charged her for friendship, charged her thousands of dollars to mod for them, forced her to pay for trips, vacations, handed over cash, etc. Last night, for at least an hour, I did get confirmation of this. I caught the tail, I believe it was the tail end. HB Heartbreaker was on a live. Very callous, very unabashed. And yes, I know a bunch of people are on nosy bystanders' neck, as they should be. Um, you if you're going to be in that line of things, you're going to be, in the TikTok thing, you have to take some responsibility to verify some things and not make fun of people, especially when it comes to um, mental health. But not enough people are going after the other folks. And someone said it best earlier today. It's because of aesthetics. A lot of people do not view nosy bystander as societally attractive, so they're going to go after her. Some people have a problem with nosy bystander because she has an Anglo-Saxon fiance. Whatever. We have to stop choosing sides based upon aesthetics. You can be beautiful on the outside and completely horrid on the inside. Now, I, as a person, how I see you on the outside does change as I get to know you. Some people become more physically attractive to me, some people decrease in it. That's just how my brain works. But that's what it is. That's what it is. Um, also, today at 6:30 p.m. on the GCPR airwaves, you will have 2-year health care, and then at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, Superplex Party on the GCPR airwaves, YouTube, and TikTok. And then 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, Conversations with T. Nathan. At 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be back on YouTube at TazJ77 to go over some new information we have regarding the Kirk conspiracy and some newly uncovered pictures of Erica Kirk cozying up with someone. But as always, thank you all for joining me here for the Taz Effect. I will see you all same time, same place tomorrow. Don't forget, because tomorrow's Friday, we'll be talking about all the news you could use from all over the social media highways and byways. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow, darlings.